Welcome to Washington Hospital Today, the program dedicated to sharing timely information about the community hospital that's been taking care of Washington Township Healthcare District residents since it opened in 1958. Washington Hospital Today is provided for the sole purpose of informing residents about healthcare topics and issues that have been covered during community forums, free health and wellness classes, or as part of educational sessions held during the district's open board meetings. This program is one more way that Washington Hospital helps empower you, the residents of the district, by providing information needed to make informed decisions about your health.
I want to welcome everybody to today's weight management talk. I'm glad to see you all out here today. I see some familiar faces. That's a good support here for me. Anyway, I titled today's talk, What Are You Waiting For? But before we go into that, I just want to mention that everybody has different circumstances for their weight management, and so treatment approaches might be different. Everybody comes from a different background that brings them to this place where they're trying to manage their weight. So the approach might have to be different. But today we're going to talk about some basic information that most people could use. Some of the information you may know, but it deserves being repeated, as you probably can recognize that as we go through some of these slides. So today's talk is, what are you waiting for? Obviously a play on words, because you might have heard people say this. You said it to yourself. I'm going to go on a diet on Monday after the weekend. I'm going to start that diet on the magical first day of the new year. And you've already set yourself up for failure, in my opinion, because it sounds like you're going to get off of something. I'm going to go on a diet to get off of it. I'm going to start a diet and stop it. So in my mind, you've kind of set yourself up for failure. And some people might consider the fad diets are really dead. Now, if you were to go and Google the word diet, you would think differently, because I came up with, on this particular day that I Googled diet, I came up with 144 million hits, okay? So it is definitely a booming industry, as everyone is trying to seek out the holy grail of weight management or weight loss. The industry is riddled with programs, books, videos, DVDs, supplements, surgeries, and pills. But the hardest pill to swallow, really, is the fact that your weight loss efforts never change. You never stop trying to manage your weight, okay? It's about really looking at your lifestyle and picking out habits that you need to change, that you can live with and get the results you want in terms of weight management and maintaining that lost weight. So it's very individual, looking at your lifestyle, what do you need to change, identifying changes that you can really live with that give you the results that you want. And there are 7 areas I want to talk about, and I call them the Fab 5, no, I can't even say it, the Fab 5 flab fixes. So if you can say that 3 times really fast, then you're halfway there. So these are the areas we're going to talk about today: setting goals for yourself, self-monitoring, obviously looking at nutrition and exercise, and behavior change. So what you were looking at here is, at a minimum, you want to prevent further weight gain, which is not easy to do, because at about age 30, your calorie needs really start to drop off, and they decline about 2 to 3% every decade following age 30. So at a minimum, you want to prevent further weight gain, which is, like, as I mentioned, not an easy thing to do in some cases, especially since we've started to increase about an extra 600 calories a day compared to 40 years ago. And of course, we have gross inactivity because of all the technology, which we'll talk about in a few more minutes. So the ultimate goal is to reduce body fat and maintain that loss indefinitely, and to also preserve muscle mass, because that's what happens as you get older. You lose muscle mass and your metabolic rate goes down. You don't need as many calories. But your initial goal should probably be about 5 to 10% weight loss, because it doesn't seem like that much, but it makes a big difference in reducing your risk of chronic diseases and helping to manage certain conditions that you might have, like diabetes, like high blood pressure. So losing weight at a rate of 1 to 2 pounds a week tells me that you're doing something that you can probably live with. It's not a drastic amount of weight loss. Usually when you're doing drastic measures to lose weight, you can't stick to those habits. okay? Because they're not really habits. They're just something you did in a panic, okay? And give yourself about 6 months to lose that 5 to 10% weight loss, and then establish that foundation. Wait to lose any more weight. Relish in the fact that you've lost that 5 to 10% weight loss, and study your habits and enjoy that time. And then look to see what further changes you can make in activity or diet to lose more weight. The other thing you have to look at is get real with what are your motivators, because those are going to keep you on track with your goals. Is your motivation looks? In most cases it is, but really over the long haul it's about health and quality of life. So think about what are your motivators, because those are going to keep you on track the long term. And many people are maybe overwhelmed with sacrifices they're going to have to make and the changes they're going to have to make to lose weight. And it may not be that daunting. I would recommend that you sit down and look at what kind of sacrifices are you going to have to make changes in your life that result in weight loss, permanent weight loss. Okay? I know for sure it's going to take time. It takes time to plan menus. It's going to take time to exercise. And it's going to take time to start self-monitoring, which means collecting food records. It's a proven effective tool in helping to manage weight because it helps to increase your awareness of what you're doing. And by collecting food records, you are able to identify habits that you have that you may have not recognized. So for example, obviously you're going to look at the types of foods and amounts of foods that you might be eating at meals and snacks. What time of day do you eat the most or the least? Also, your eating environment. Are you eating standing up most of the time? Are you also, for example, cleaning up the kids' plates with foods because you don't want to waste? Little things like that you find out. Also, are the people you eat with supportive? Are they people who want you to, go along with them in eating high-calorie foods? Also, you might be distracted while you eat. Is it mostly watching TV or doing work while you eat? Not only, it's not meant to be punitive and look at all the things that you're doing wrong, it's also helpful to look at things that you're doing right. What strategies are you implementing that are working for you, that do help? Okay, and also you want to weigh at least weekly to keep on task with what's really happening with my weight. It's not good enough just to say, I feel these clothes aren't fitting me that well this week. Maybe it's because of water weight gain. Let's look at the numbers on the scale weekly to see what's changing. And you can reflect back on the week as to what went on, what events were you involved in, or did you plan well this week? And of course, professional counseling should not be ruled out for times when you're going through a stressful period in your life, or if you've identified through food records that you do some emotional eating, you're involved in emotional eating. I don't think you should turn away from considering professional counseling. So let's look at Frank's food records. Okay, now Frank's a little overweight. His wife's trying to help him out. So she cooks him up some whole wheat toast in the morning, use trans fat-free margarine, low sugar jam, not using a full yolk, mixing it up with some egg whites, doing good so far. His wife's helping him. And then he drops by a friend's office in the morning, and guy's got peanuts there, so he takes a handful of peanuts, not realizing that's 400 extra calories that he's taking in on top of what he just had for breakfast. And then, he picks up a report from Mary's office, chats with her. I don't know, I think his boss should be watching him, how often he stops at people's offices too. Anyway, and he decides to have 2 chocolate cookies. And then his wife has packed him a lunch of turkey sandwich, apple, diet soda, so things are still pretty good with the meal planning there. And then he goes to a staff meeting, which can be kind of stressful, confrontational with other employees, so might start to suck down some small chocolates. Then he's picking up the kids, their lunches, they have leftover potato chips, so he snacks on those. And then at 7 o'clock, wife cooks dinner again. And then at 9 o'clock, when he's sitting down watching TV, popcorn. That's a low-calorie treat, but not realizing when it's buttered, and depending on the portion you have, it starts to really stack up, as you can see. Okay? So imagine if this is throughout the week, if he's doing these little things like this, the calories are stacking up. And that's why he may not be able to see a weight loss at the end of the week, despite his wife's best efforts. Okay? So it's about in his case, for him right now, what he could do is plan his snacks, and she plans his meals. But he might recognize that snacking if he collected the food records. So that goes into looking at behaviors he needs to change. He needs to plan what he's going to eat and eat only what he plans most of the time. Because it's when you go off track that it gets a little gray, like exactly how much did I have of that? Bite here, handful there. It's a little fuzzy. The other thing I'm a big proponent of is not going a long time without eating, because you set yourself up to feel starved and you'll leave the meal stuffed. You feel extremely hungry, and you can justify overeating because you haven't eaten that last meal. And usually when you're famished, you're going to eat quickly. And it's important to take about 20 to 30 minutes, which most people don't do, to feel the onset of fullness. So I recommend, after you leave this class, take the time to do that. Take the time to really sit there and eat 20 minutes and see how it feels. You might end up eating less on that plate. And I don't know why you would set yourself up for failure by having high-risk foods in the house, right? Because if you have these certain items around and you know that they are extremely pleasurable to you, you want to be able to go out and get them, not have them in the house where you can seek them out easily. Also, I think that your self-talk can't be somebody who's lying to you, a Pollyanna. It's okay for you to have those chocolate chip cookies or go ahead and have that popcorn, Frank. Or it can't be berating him that you can't be saying to yourself, oh, you'll never lose weight, you'll always be fat. It's got to be somebody who's talking to you like a coach. Okay, so what do we do next? We made a mistake. Let's brush ourselves off and learn from that mistake. How can we correct it? Okay? And this is what Dieting Donna needs to do on her meal plan. Okay? The middle column is her 1,800 calories is what she needs for weight maintenance. 1,500 calories is what she would need for a gradual weight loss. And 2,100 is the surplus. So let's look how she starts out her diet on Monday. Sounds good. She's having a whole wheat bagel. She's cut down on the portion. Fresh fruit. Packs a snack of non-fat yogurt. Also packs her lunch. But a friend comes along and offers a half of a Snickers bar because she can't finish it. That's not on her diet. She's not supposed to have that. But she gives in and she has it. And so she might be saying to herself at this point in time, I can't stay on a diet. I'm a failure. And then goes to McDonald's and has one of the larger deluxe meals there. Okay? And if she were to be collecting food records, she could see at this point it's still the calories she needs for weight maintenance, 1820. She hasn't gone over the calories to a surplus until she goes home and has a half a cup, if she's lucky, only half a cup, of some premium high-end ice cream. Okay, now that 300 on top of the 18 is a surplus. If she had her wits about her and coached herself, she could, okay, you had the Snickers bar, it's only 150 calories, a little more than I planned for a snack, but when we go to McDonald's, I'm going to have a small hamburger and maybe a salad instead. And then she had a deficit. If she was just able to get a hold of that at that point in time and do some correction at that point and reevaluate what's going on. Let's take another look at another example of what she might be doing. Okay, so it's the end of the day, she's eaten 1820 calories. And then what happens is she says, well, I've got to create that calorie deficit. You need to probably burn at least 500 calories a day to equal a pound of weight loss by the end of the week. So she goes and she works out for an hour. It's 300 calories. She feels good. The treadmill says at the top, you burned 300 calories, you met your goal. Then she feels really good, so she goes home and she has a half a cup of light ice cream and maybe 5 ounces of wine. It's a wash. She's gained the calories back that she just burned off. So by keeping track of these kinds of things, you can keep yourself honest as to, have I created that calorie deficit I needed on the average over a week or a month's period of time? Okay? So that brings us to talking about meal planning. It's about really being consistent. Consistently purchasing the items you need and planning meals and snacks. Get the food you need. And consuming most often lower calorie foods, lower fat, lower calorie foods. And the first thing I want you to look at is, do you drink a lot of calories? You may know that some juices that have become very popular, you can have a 16-ounce glass of juice and it ends up being close to 500 calories. Same with coffees. 500 or 600 calories for a cup of coffee. You didn't even get to chew anything, right? So keep in mind about eliminating any of your calories coming from beverages, and most often selecting lower fat, because those are calorie-dense foods, and they end up being lower fat ends up being lower calorie. So that brings us to talking about how methods of cooking. Are you frying most of your foods? Is most of your foods cooked in oil? Deep fat fried or constantly sauteing? So you want to select baked or broiled or barbecued foods, steamed, stir-fried, that's the kind of thing. And aiming for half that plate to be filled with vegetables, because vegetables weigh a lot. There's a theory called volumetrics where people eat the same weight of food each day. So vegetables are heavy because of their fiber and water content. So when you start to cut back on other calorie-dense foods on the plate, you're going to fill up the rest of that plate with vegetables. So that will keep you satisfied and feeling like you ate. There wasn't much of a sacrifice there in feeling hungry. And of course, consuming smaller portions. And how do you do that? Maybe using smaller plates. Studies show that when you use a bigger plate, you're going to fill it up. And getting pre-portioned foods. I think it's a great idea to use frozen meals or meals replacements in helping you to lose weight and keep that off. It's a defined amount of food. It helps you register this is one portion before you open the next portion up. Like in the case of ice cream. Do not get containers, large containers of ice cream, even though it's less expensive, because that scoop gets very subjective. What is one serving when you start to really scoop it out? But if it's pre-portioned, you can see that the manufacturer is calling this one portion. Making healthy choices at restaurants is easier than ever now because in California it's a law that if you have 6 or more chain restaurants, you have to provide nutrition information at the point of purchase. And it's also part of the healthcare reform bill too for restaurants that have 20 or more businesses in the country. They have to be providing that nutrition information also. So right off, you can look at avoid fried foods, splitting a meal or dessert, ordering a la carte. Nowadays, restaurants are more than ever willing to, smooze the consumer because I'm sure that people aren't dining out as much as they used to. So let's look at another way that it all starts to add up by looking at some of those meal planning tools that we looked at. So in terms of orange juice, for example, 12 ounces of orange juice going down to a medium orange instead of all the juice. You're saving close to 100 calories. Going from a large bagel with regular cream cheese to a smaller bagel with light cream cheese. Over 200 calories saved. 12-inch sub sandwich to 6-inch sub sandwich. 300 calories saved. The potato chips you didn't save so much, but it does help. Every little bit helps. Going from 2 cups of cooked rice to 1 cup of cooked rice. Again, over 200 calories. And you can see as you go on, the steak is smaller, going to a lighter ice cream. So the total calories saved in this day were over 1,000 calories. If something like this happened every day for somebody, that's almost 3 pounds by the end of the week. Okay? So take a look at those food records. Where can you start making changes with the type of food and the portion? Which brings me to talk about the food pyramid, which some people may have not realized that there's actually a new food pyramid, relatively new. And it shows you a rainbow of food groups. Those are all the food groups that you can eat from. So a lot of times when we think about going on a diet or changing what we eat, all this deprivation, you don't have to be deprived. There's many foods that you can eat. It's about choosing the best ones. So I just wanted to point out for you how you can use this website. And I think that I am hooked up to the website here, or internet access. So let me go down to here. And these are your tax dollars at work, so I would take advantage of it. The USDA puts out the food pyramid every year. Every 5 years, it comes usually out with the dietary guidelines for Americans. So you want to type in my.gov. Okay, right there. Okay, so it's a wonderful website because they have so many things for you to look at here. There's interactive tools, podcasts, little videos that you can watch, different situations that help you with weight management. Okay, if you're interested in the calories in a food, all you have to do is go to look up a food. That's a new feature here, and you just type it in. So let's look up apple pie. That's American, right? Apple pie. And we see that we'll do the 2-crusted apple pie. And we come up with what food groups, how many servings it's providing from a food group. And it tells you, again, the calories are 356. Maybe you want to compare that food with another pie. So we look over here to maybe cheesecake. Cheesecake Factory would be glad I'm bringing this up. So here you look at, cheesecake is more calories. Okay, so that you're comparing the 2 pieces of pie. Okay, then you can go back and print up also a personalized plan. By typing in, for example, let's type in your age. Let's say 50. And let's pick a female. I'm partial that way. Okay, and pounds, 160 in, and then let's say 5 feet, 2 inches. Come back to me. Here we go. 2 inches. And it also asks you about your activity level. And then you submit that. And it tells you, oops, the weight you entered is above the healthy range for your height. They're very politically correct about telling you that you're overweight. Okay? So then it says, would you like a food plan for your current weight? Or do you want to gradually move toward a healthier weight? So let's do that right here. And it shows you here that the calories that they're going to give you are 1,600 calories, which is, if you went to the maintenance level, it was 18. So this is for a very gradual weight loss. You probably, if you wanted a more aggressive weight loss, would probably be closer to probably something like 1,200, 12 to 1,400. So you can even click here to view and print your own little poster of it. It tells you how many servings you need from each food group. Okay? You can even track your calories with this tool in here. Then you can go into each of the food groups. Let me go back here. That's the food group tracker. You would type in what you've been consuming. Let me look over here. Worksheet. Is that what I want? No, that's not what I wanted either. It gives you detailed information. Let me go back one more step here into the food pyramid, inside the food pyramid. And if you click on the color, like this grains group, you go to it and you learn more about it. It tells you what foods are in the grains group. It tells you how much is needed. It tells you what is considered a serving and the health benefits and nutrients in each food group. So it's a wealth of information if you take the time and navigate through this. So I just wanted to point that out to you as a great resource for you to go to figure out your own calorie needs. So back to the food pyramid. Has anybody gone to mypyramid.gov? Let me see a show. You've gone there, okay. Anybody else aware of that website? So I think it's just basic good nutrition information for you to know is available to you. So let's just go through each of these food groups and look to see the best choices in terms of lower calorie and for weight management benefits here in these different food groups. So in the whole grains, in the grains group, what you want to do is select at least half your servings should be whole grain. And also the recommendations here are to help you get the most fiber and lower sugar options and lower fat. Again, because that's going to help keep the calories down within your choices in this food group. So, for example, small whole grain muffins is recommended instead of, Costco-sized muffins. That's like cake. That's a little cake. So baked goods in general should provide about less than 3 grams of fat per serving. The health benefits in this food group when it comes to weight management is that they are fibrous and can add bulk to the diet and give you that sensation of fullness. As far as risk reduction with helping you reduce your risk of certain chronic diseases, it plays a role in heart disease not only because of the type of fiber in this food group, soluble fiber specifically, which helps to bind up cholesterol and lower your cholesterol levels, but also because of the different plant chemicals in the grains group, you reduce your risk of heart disease. It also helps with proper digestion and elimination and can lower your risk of having constipation and diverticulosis. And these foods are fortified with folic acid and iron. So all women of childbearing ages need to consider that to prevent birth defects and also to lower the risk of anemia. In the fruits and vegetables group, in general, you want to select fresh or frozen most often. And obviously the weight management advantages here is that they are low calorie and they're filling. They are bulky, just like the grain group can be. And so they provide that feeling of fullness. Because fruits and vegetables provide a good source of potassium, they may help with lowering your risk of hypertension and reduce your risk of stroke. And in terms of helping manage or reduce your risk for type 2 diabetes is that most of these foods are not necessarily high in carbohydrate, which ends up being blood sugar, so it helps to manage your blood sugars that way. And these foods have been known to also help reduce your risk of certain cancers, mouth, stomach, colon, and rectal cancer. And again, they also help with proper digestion and elimination. And fruits and vegetables are easier to access than ever now, okay? I mean, we live in California. We have access to such a variety of fresh fruits and vegetables. And we have these farmers markets now. If they're not in your town, they're in the next town across the freeway, right? In general, these are some just ideas to increase the fruits and vegetables. Using fruit for a snack, adding them to cereals in the morning. When you make chicken or tuna salad, you can add some grated carrots or celery or water chestnuts to make it more interesting. And then don't just put it in a sandwich, put it in a pita pocket bread, because you can also push push lettuce and tomato and cucumbers in there and really bulk it up, okay? Another way to sneak in the vegetables is to steam some vegetables. Now they have these slick packaging where it's sort of a steaming process that happens in the microwave. In addition to that, they have vegetables that are cleaned, trimmed, and ready to microwave for you now. So they've done everything short of feeding it to you. Okay? So there's no excuse why you can't just go to the store and buy those things, put them in the microwave, and cook them till they're just tender, and then put them in some soups. Toss them in a casserole. Add them to a low-calorie frozen meal. Also, if you're making waffles or pancakes, berries are more available than ever, it seems like. There's all kinds of different frozen berries. It just seems that they're, keeping an eye on increasing the antioxidants from the berries. People are adding those to different foods now. And also making a vegetable omelet in the morning or for lunch or even for dinner. That's another good place to add and bulk up a meal. In the milk group, overall, you want to select non-fat or 1% dairy products. Now, cheeses, some people aren't very satisfied with the lower fat cheeses. So if you've got to use cheese, grating it makes it go further. And using a stronger cheese gives you the flavor without adding a large amount. They've done a great job with making yogurts, which are very nutritious, sort of like desserts nowadays. And they've also come out with Greek yogurts that are higher in protein, so they stay in your stomach a little longer, because protein foods do that. So as far as weight management goes, the milk group offers many nutritious, low-calorie choices to provide variety in your diet. And of course, dairy products provide vitamin D and calcium, which are necessary to prevent bone loss throughout life. Nope, don't want to do that. In the meat group, we always just think of beef, chicken, fish, these types of things, and maybe not so much fish. People typically pick a couple of items from the protein group or meat group to stick with, but I think we need to broaden our horizons here and really indulge and look at all the seafood that we have available and look at beans and lentils, nuts and seeds as being substitutes for meat and chicken and meats, because those things provide not only protein but fiber and other B vitamins. Okay? We know that adding protein to the meals helps to delay the onset of hunger. Okay? It stays in your stomach longer and helps to prevent the hunger from coming on. And you'll notice that. If you have, for example, I've noticed, especially with cereal in the morning, compared to something like having eggs and toast in the morning, looking at the difference in how you feel, how long does it take for that onset of hunger to occur? And we know that by eating seafood and also incorporating nuts and seeds, you're going to get cardioprotective oils in your diet too. Okay? Let's take a look at fats in the diet. Of course, you want to use fats sparingly. But if you have to use fats, you probably want to use canola and olive oil most often in the home. And then you're going to get oils like soybean oil, safflower oil, and products that you probably buy at the store. That's probably the type of oil that's used most often. Those are polyunsaturated fats. In general, you want to use lighter products like a light salad dressing, light cream cheese, those kinds of things. They do have less calories. But don't go from whole fat items to fat-free, because it's going to be a turnoff. Do a step down. It's going to be easier for you to accept. So the health benefits here is that fats, although we don't need many, we do need some. So the intention is not a fat-free diet, but it is to reduce your intake. We need them for essential fatty acids that our body does not make that are important for different biological processes. And it's a main source of vitamin E, and it does help to absorb certain vitamins. So again, the intention is not to follow a fat-free diet, but go lighter. Now, the one area that we've gone light on, for sure in this country, is activity. And as you can see, we have so much technology has reduced our need to move around. We take our car most places, but before we take the car out, we use a remote control to open the garage door, then take the car wherever we're going. We don't have to get out to get food anymore. You can just do the drive up, right? And then you park your car in a parking structure. You take the elevator to work or the escalator, and then you're in there working on a computer. You go home and work on the computer, or play games on the computer, or watch TV. So you can see that you barely have to get up to even turn on those things. I have so many of these control devices at my home, I don't know which one turns on what anymore. Okay, so as far as having an exercise or activity plan, I don't expect people to be overnight a zealot about exercise. but you surely want to get away from being the couch potato. So it's important to just say no to being the couch potato. Now, the American College of Sports Medicine and the Heart Association have both gotten a little bit more aggressive with their exercise recommendations. And part of it, again, is that as we age, we're losing that muscle mass, and we have to do everything to combat that muscle from being lost, and there goes our metabolic rate also. Okay? So to reduce your risk of chronic disease, it's recommended to probably engage in activity 5 days a week, 30 minutes most days of the week. And it should be a moderate, intense kind of cardio activity where you're breaking a sweat, you're increasing your heart rate, but you could probably still talk and have conversation. And most people are going to opt for that over this vigorously intense cardio, 20 minutes, 3 days a week. Now, going back to the 30 minutes a day, you can break that up and it's going to be just as effective. So you could do a 10-minute walk after each meal, and that adds up to that 30 minutes a day. In addition to that, the minimum is to do 8 to 10 different strength training exercises twice a week. And in doing that, you're going to do at least 8 to 12 reps of that particular strength training activity. That's the minimum. To reduce, though, and maintain lost weight, it's really a step up to probably 60 minutes of that activity most days of the week, 5 days a week. And then to maintain the loss, it's probably 60 to 90. So it's much more, these are much more aggressive recommendations. When you start an exercise program, you want to talk to your doctor about it because you may have medical conditions that prevent you from engaging in certain activities. You want to buy the right shoes and clothes to be comfortable and prevent injury. And if you have any medical problems that warrant you have some medical identification, like if you have diabetes, you want to wear like an ID bracelet. And for safety reason, you do want to go with somebody, okay, as much as you can, maybe if you're going to walk with somebody, for example, or be around people so that if you did need help, you could get help. And to stay hydrated in any activity that you engage in. But look at all the options that we have. These options are not available 40 or 50 years ago. We have health clubs everywhere. The city recreation offers different classes. Hospitals, Washington Hospital, for example. Home equipment is probably less expensive now. I'm sure that if you go to eBay or Craigslist, you're going to find people selling their exercise equipment for a decent price. We have exercise videos, DVDs, public television. There's different classes. And even if you have whatever your service is at home for television, many of them, have different kinds of shows that you can buy that are exercise shows that you can purchase or view for free. And also just looking at a simple walking program, again, wearing the correct shoes and clothing. And I've even suggested people get a dog because you feel sort of guilty about the dog sitting around and not being able to go out. That's going to be a motivator for you, is to get a dog and take it for a walk. Again, so I'm going to do that. Okay. So some of these recommendations that we've talked about today and suggestions come from information that they've gathered from the National Weight Control Registry, which is an investigation, the largest investigation, of looking at people who've lost a significant amount of weight and kept it off. So to be in this pool of people, you have to be 18 years or older and have had to lose at least 30 pounds and kept it off for at least a year or more. But the average person has lost over 60 pounds and kept it off for more than 5 years. And so when you look at these people, what they've done, they've consistently followed a lower fat, lower calorie diet. They're eating smaller, more frequent meals so they don't drive that hunger level up and overeat. They're not skipping meals. They include breakfast. By including breakfast, it gets you going in the morning and starts your metabolism going. And again, their exercise, as we've talked about, is pretty aggressive, 60 to 90 minutes of intense activity most days of the week. And they're weighing themselves at least once a week to keep themselves honest with them. It's in your face that way. And cutting down on watching TV and using the computer. Taking corrective action with a small amount of weight gain, as we've talked about. Okay? So today's the day. No more diets. Nobody's going to follow a diet in here anymore. You're going to walk out of here and start looking at your lifestyle and changes that you can make. It's individual. But when you walk out of here, look for what is the next meal going to involve? What are my portions going to be? Where am I going to be eating that meal? Where's the activity in the day? So make the change today. Don't wait for starting that diet on the first of the year or after the vacation. It starts now. Every day there's an opportunity to eat healthier and increase activity. So if you have any questions at this time, let's address those questions that you might have. Actually, I want to pose a question to the audience. Is from this talk today, can you share with us what changes that you might like to make or areas that you think you can improve on?
I have a question about the canola oil.
Okay.
Can you tell me what it is?
Okay. Canola oil comes from rape seeds. And rape seeds are grown in, for example, the Midwest and in Canada. And that's why it's called canola. Okay? So it's mostly a monounsaturated fat. So it does not promote high cholesterol. It's the lowest in saturated fat, which does promote high cholesterol. So canola comes from rape seeds. Most of it comes probably from that area of Canada, Manitoba specifically. And it's called canola because most of it comes from Canada.
Because lately I just read an article, some negative about canola oil. It said it will hurt your health.
And I don't know in which way it can hurt your health, except that if you use too much of it, it can be calorie dense, just like other fats. All fats are the same calories pretty much. So again, it's not that you're going to be using canola oil on every food item, but when you saute food or you're going to use a little oil in a salad dressing, that's a good choice to use. Many countries used canola oil before we did in the United States, and one of the reasons was there was a toxic component called uric acid or something like that. So they removed it, and now they've accepted it into this country. So it's been around for many years. But again, you have to look at how much are you using of anything, and is it going to impact your health in that way?
I've got two questions. One is about, does the calorie vary with age? Also winter to summer, and again male to female. What should be the calorie intake?
So,
number two, one more question I'll add right now. I read somewhere in a medical magazine, all of us are actually born to people who were in the World War II era. And there was war ration. So they all developed a special gene to store calories as fat. And it has been passed on to us. Is it true?
Okay, well, let's address the first part of that. Clearly, men and women need different calories. Men typically put on more muscle mass and can consume more calories to maintain that mass because they just build up more muscle because of the hormones that they have. And clearly, when you're growing up into the age 20, 25, you need more calories. Then after that, as each decade goes by, your calorie needs drop off about 2 to 3%. Okay, and also with activity, of course. As a society, we are grossly inactive. So we don't deserve a lot of the calories that we have so available to us. Food is so available to us in most places that we go to. Places that you don't even associate with food, there's going to be food there. I mean, if you go to a Xerox place, there's going to be food there. I've been in the hardware store, there's ice cream there. So in many places now, you're just confronted with food that we don't need because we're not that active. And from season to season, it should change too. And that's probably related to the fact that people are less active during the winter season because it's darker and the weather's not as good as in the summer, so people are more sedentary. And then to make things worse, of course, during that time, there seems to be more food available too because of holiday season. What was your other question?
About World War II era war ration. So our parents developed some gene to store calories as fat because of the less amount of food available.
Well, see,
that has been passed on to us. I read it in a medical journal.
I mean, as primitive man, for example, look at all the work they had to do to get foods. So our biology is that it's very good at, survival mechanism kicks in. And we are very good at storing calories as a survival sort of gene that we have. That is true. But as you can see, we can look at our lifestyles and be aware of that and say that, of course, we're not primitive man anymore. We don't have to hunt for food, that we have to modify what's coming at us every day. So that is true that our bodies are very biologically slick at preserving fuel for survival. That is true.
Thank you. I have two questions. One is about sugar substitute. Your recommendation, cereal, cooking, those kinds of things.
Okay, sugar substitutes are useful if somebody has, for example, diabetes and they're used to drinking regular sodas. If they're used to drinking regular sodas, by going to a diet soda, it's going to really help lower their blood sugar because that was a huge source of carbohydrate or sugar to them, which raises their blood glucose. I think you have to look at somebody's diet and a need for sugar substitutes. In the case of somebody, as I mentioned, for somebody who has diabetes who enjoys sodas and was driving up their blood sugars drinking regular soda, a diet soda definitely has a role there. But if you're somebody who just has a cup of coffee a day and wants a teaspoon of sugar in your coffee, that's probably not a problem. Now, if you're somebody who drinks coffee all day long and you're adding 2 or 3 teaspoons of sugar and it's a way to eliminate those calories, then maybe a small, using a packet of the sugar substitute throughout the day might be helpful to you in reducing those calories. Sugar substitutes are usually so sweet, people don't use a lot of them. The place that they would be getting probably excessive amounts is if they're drinking sodas. But the FDA does have allowed daily intakes that they've established per kilogram of body weight on what is a safe limit of sugar substitutes for the different kinds that are out there: aspartame, sucralose, saccharin. So they do have allowed daily intakes.
Thank you. And also, the literature says you should weigh in at least once a week as opposed to not weighing in very often. But I've also heard it's not good to weigh every day.
I wouldn't weigh every day because you'll probably be judging the happiness of each day on that. But so weighing once a week is reasonable. Weighing daily is probably a little bit, unnecessary, probably once a week. But not weighing yourself, I think you're lying to yourself about what's really happening.
On this body mass index, is that for men and women?
Yes.
I'm obese and I'm going to cry.
That handout also says, though, that it can overestimate fat in people who are muscular and underestimate the fat content of their body for people who, for example, lose muscle and they weigh less because they're losing muscle. So it underestimates the amount of fat that's on those people, even though their weight is lower because they've lost muscle.
I have 3 questions. Number 1 is the nutrition. Vitamin D, if I take in from food, is that going to generate by the kidney? Or I came over here and listened to one of the kidney doctor's presentation is the vitamin D is generated by the kidney. Now, right now nutritionists telling me that take the food which have the nutrition, get into the body. So I got confused.
Well, see, when you're exposed to sunlight, vitamin D goes through several different phases, the chemistry in your body. So when you're exposed to sunlight and you expose your skin to sunlight, vitamin D goes through several different changes, and the kidneys are involved in that. But it is active vitamin D, and the sun stimulates that, and the kidneys help to that process. So you do have to have, adequate. Your kidneys have to be working to do that.
I see. Okay, thank you. The next question is, when I eat, is it better to eat when I feel hungry, or I better eat on the regular time basis, like a lunch, breakfast, dinner, or I feel, I don't feel hungry in the lunch, so I just skip the lunch.
So if you skip lunch, though, are you overly hungry for dinner? So you have to look at that. When you go into the next meal, would you overeat? Because you can justify the fact that you skipped a meal.
Yeah, sometimes eat more in the dinner time.
See, that's especially concerning to me, for example, when people have diabetes, because they skip a meal and then the load that they eat drives their blood sugar up. And another habit I strongly discourage is to eat your largest meal at night. I've met many people who eat their largest meal between 8 and 9 at night, and then they just go to bed. And that's not a normal, it's not easy on your system to process all that food at one time. So it's important to try to eat, probably earlier in the evening, and maybe have a snack later on. But I really discourage eating the largest meal at night.
I see. So my point is, when I don't feel hungry, for example, at lunchtime, so it's good to stick the schedule to eat, or I just, oh, I'm not hungry, so I can eat it later.
You know, I would try to include lunch. It doesn't have to be a large lunch, but at least something that's going to lower your appetite going into the next meal to prevent overeating and all that work that your body has to do on consuming that extra amount. So I would plan to have something. I wouldn't skip the meal.
I see. Thank you. Another question, last one. Now, when your slide there says there are trans fat-free marine.
What was it? Trans fat margarine?
Yeah, the margarine.
Right.
The trans fat-free margarine. But some people told me that the trans fat is basically some kind of chemical reverse. It makes your body even worse compared to the butter.
Okay, well, this is what the recommendation is to still use margarine, but a soft tub margarine. Okay, because the less hard a fat is, the softer you go or the more liquid a fat is, the healthier it probably is for you. Okay? Now, my opinion is that you have to look at what's your usual source of fat. If you're using butter for every meal and cooking in butter, I would not do that. It's becoming the usual source of fat for you, and that's going to be a problem over time. But if you're using a variety of different fats, so let's just say you use a little butter on some toast in the morning, but the rest of the day you're using olive oil for a salad and you're using a little mayonnaise on a sandwich, that's probably fine. So you have to look at, usually people aren't using one source of fat in the day. So even if you used something that had butter, which does have saturated fat, and it's a small amount, it's probably not going to make a difference. Now, going to those margarines, years ago when they would make margarine, in the hardening process, taking oil and hardening them, they made these things called trans fats. And the problem is that they increase the bad cholesterol, and they decrease the good cholesterol. So that's why they started to take out these trans fats in the margarine. Okay, but again, I would still go back to looking at any health concern you have about a food is how often do you use it? Is it going to harm you based on the little amount that you use it? Okay, so always look at your usage. So sugar substitutes, different kinds of fats. So that's why it's good to collect food records, because you can see I use a lot of processed foods. And I'm probably getting a lot of sodium, for example. So look to see how you use a product.
Thank you.
Frequency.
Hi, I would like to know the number of hours of sleep, whether like a less number of hours or more number of hours, how it affects the weight loss or weight gain.
Well, I think that you have to look at to see, and that's a very individual thing, how people feel rested. You know, if you feel rested from sleeping 6 hours, but somebody else might feel rested sleeping, 8 hours or 9. So I think that's a very individual thing. But studies have shown that when you don't sleep well, there's certain hormones that are increased that may cause you to eat more. And the choices that you seem to gravitate towards are not the healthiest. So there's a few studies that do show that sleep deprivation changes some hormones in your body, and those hormones do affect appetite and choices.
So earlier you mentioned that the body mass index that you gave us might overestimate or underestimate your body or your muscle mass or your fat content.
In most cases, it's a practical tool for people to use.
Right. So for somebody my age, how much, 21, how much would you say a good healthy fat percentage would be?
Well, based on that, did you look at your BMI?
Yeah, it says 169 or 159, but that's, I don't know, seems a little low for me.
Your BMI was what, did you say?
But yeah, so if I'm going by 21, it looks like I 6'1". It says 159. Yeah. So it says I'm supposed to weigh 159.
For your height.
Yes, that seems a little low.
So you wanted to know, for example, your percent body fat.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
What's a good healthy percent body fat?
And also, just in terms of seeking that out, where to find somebody to measure that. In some of these health clubs, what happens is that you can trend it. The device that they use, the accuracy differs from each device. but you can trend your percent body fat when you're trying to, improve lean body mass and lose fat, so you can see changes. But usually for a man, it's going to be definitely less than, closer to probably 15%, less than 20%.
I have a question regarding fruits. How much do natural fresh fruits contribute to sugars?
Well, most of the calories in a fruit do come from carbohydrate, and that type of carbohydrate is classified as a sugar. So it's a considerable amount of natural carbohydrate or sugar in it, fructose.
For type 2 diabetes, we need to learn how to prepare our own food. Do you have a class for that?
Every first Thursday of the month, there is a class called Diabetes Matters. And that's a free class, and then there's a diabetes support group. Okay? And they have different topics that are discussed. If you do have diabetes and you've never had education, I strongly recommend that you come to Washington Hospital's Diabetes Education Center. And we just need a referral from your physician, and we can set you up on an individual basis and or in classes.
Is a healthy weight about 10 or 15 pounds over protect your bones if you have osteoporosis? If you just have more weight on you, like 10 or 15 pounds over normal.
There are some studies that show that getting too lean can affect bone health. So I would say, especially as you get older, the intention may not be to be as you have to discuss that with your physician as to what is a healthy weight range for you, looking at other parameters and other conditions that you might have. But there is some truth to that actually when you are overweight, you're carrying more weight, so that stimulates nerves and bone health. So that would have to be discussed with your physician as to other parameters like high blood pressure and those kinds of things too are impacted by weight.
Yeah, I'm curious about alcohol, having a glass of wine every night or a glass of port. I mean, if you were to cut that out, probably, would that really decrease your weight?
Well, I mean, a glass of wine is maybe about 150 calories, a 5-ounce glass of wine. So, if it's part of other unnecessary calories, you have to look at where you want to cut out. That's a sacrifice you'd have to make. For some people, when they drink, they overeat, too. That happens for some people, not everybody. So you'd have to look to see if it's some calories that you're willing to give up compared to other things in your meal planning.
Okay, Hannah, thank you so much. Let's thank Anna.